To call to order the Syracuse Board of Zoning Appeals meeting of March 20th. We are now in session at 1 o'clock. First order of business is to approve the minutes from the February 6th, 2025 meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? No abstentions? The minutes?
You have a correction? My name was misspelled.
Approved with the corrections. All right, minutes are officially adopted. Second order of business, we're going to move to item B, V1708M1, which is a time extension for an approved use variance. Is there somebody here to represent the project? And if you could please, Terry, if you could please give your name and address.
Terry Luckett, representing the Syracuse Land Bank at 1941 South Salina Street. 438 Columbus Ave is known as the Gustav Stickley House. It's a specimen of the arts and crafts style. It's a local landmark, and it's listed on the National Register of Historic Places. There's a lot of history with this use variance, and I can go through it with you quickly, and then if you have questions, Luke's here. We originally got a use variance in 2017 for 4 guest rooms, a museum, and 2 apartments. We got a time extension to 2020. In 2021, the use variance was modified to a museum, 5 guest rooms, 1 apartment, and a small rear addition. The variance again was extended in 2025. Fundraising for this project has been very challenging. It's a very high-cost renovation. There's preservation hoops you have to run through. It's taking longer than usual. We're fundraising, so we've been trying to get the grants together. And again, Luke's here who can answer any questions about that if you have questions. We're asking for an extension through March of 2027 so that we can finally complete the renovation.
Any questions from the board?
How far along is the project?
I'm going to give you Luke.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Luke Avery Doherty, representing the Syracuse Land Bank at 1941 South Salina Street. I should say I'm also a member of the board of directors of the Gustav Stickley House Foundation, which has been raising money for the project. I am very happy to say we just bid out the project. We released an RFP last week for the full project. We expect bids to be due by early May, and we hope to get an under construction. May might be a little aggressive, but this summer definitely to get started on the rear addition and some of at least the work on the first floor. We would and then hope to finish the entire project by the end of 2026. That's our goal, and then get going from there.
Having visited the place, it was kind of a mess. So is they kind of cleaned up now, or is it?
It has been the phase. There was a phase 1 project that restored the exterior of the project.
Yeah, the house exterior is
so
beautiful.
certainly
Yeah,
that looks. The inside, we have done some removals of non-historic components. So now, if you were to go there, the historic staircase is now actually open. And so it does look a little better. It is a complicated project, like Terry said. It's a full restoration of the first floor. So, any contractors that need to come through, they're going to need to take a look at all of that, as well as the second and third floors, which will be turned into the guest suite. So that added with the rear addition and some kind of grading and landscaping issues back there. It's complicated, but we think all the pieces are coming together now. All of our various grants from the federal, state, and local levels are in place, and we're ready to get moving.
Thank you.
And you're welcome to come check it out anytime and see how it looks now.
When
But hopefully,
when there was an open house, I
yes,
was in there.
yeah, and hopefully in the next year or two we'll be able to see the completed project. So,
Any other questions from the board? Can I get a motion
I'll make a motion. We approve the extension.
through March of 2027, correct?
27.
Great.
Yes.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, guys. Good luck. All right. The board will now conduct the public hearings on today's agenda. First, the applicant or the applicant's representative will state the reasons for the requested variance and present any material or documentation which is to be considered regarding the proposal. Next, persons wishing to speak in favor of the proposal will be given the opportunity to address the board. Then, persons who wish to speak in opposition will be allowed to address the board. Finally, the applicant or representative will be given the option to make any closing arguments or comments to the board. Following the public hearing this afternoon, the board may make a decision on each application heard. The board may also decide to hold its decision until the next public hearing. If the hearing is closed, no additional information will be allowed into the record except for information that the board may request. That information will be available for public review at the zoning office in 1 Park Place, 300 South State Street. Staff, will you introduce the first application?
Certainly. So the first agenda item, or actually both area variants are companion pieces of the same project. Area variance V2504 and V2505 are for the Mission Exchange Building. One area variance requesting to to reduce the 2-story minimum requirement for the MX3 zone district, and the other to deviate from the ground floor transparency requirement of the MX3 zone district for the Gifford Street elevation. This is at 155 Gifford Street, but the project address after the re-subdivision will be 120 Seymour Street. Again, it's in the MX3 zone district, and we have Vincent Ryan here from Keplinger Freeman.
Good evening. Vincent Ryan, Keplinger Freeman, 6320 Flyer Road, East Syracuse. Thank you for the introduction. So we are looking on expanding the Rescue Mission campus. This new facility, thank you, is going to be built right next to the existing 155 Gifford Street building. It's going to have frontage on West Onondaga, Seymour Street, and Gifford. So it's kind of an interesting building in that take. Parking, you can see off to the left there, and then we're going to be using an enclosed fenced area to the east of the building for stormwater management and a couple other uses, mostly for office use and things like that. On the first floor along Seymour Street and West Onondaga, if you're looking at the west side of the building there, that'll be the new 315 boutique store, which is Thrifty Shoppers boutique store. And then the 2 other spaces to the right of that will be additional retail. To the north of that is the retail storage component of Thrifty Shopper. As many of you know, I'm sure you're all familiar with Thrifty Shopper. They take in donations. They have to sort through those donations, and then that goes out to their various stores across central New York. So that's pretty much the broad overview of the project. The building will be 45,000 square feet, and what I will say is functionally 2 stories, which I'll get into a little bit here. Christian went over, we're in the MX3 district, which allows pedestrian-friendly, transitive supportive areas for higher density for residential and other compatible non-residential uses. So we think we're hitting a lot of that. I think the best thing to go to is the elevations, probably talk to the most about what's going on with these 2 variances. Thank you. So the first variance, we're looking for relief, like Christian said, from the 2-story minimum, and then the second variance is the glazing of the facade on the first floor. To make it easy, I'll go through each variance separately. I provided my letter, but just to quickly review the request as part of the area variance for neighborhood character, feasibility of alternatives, sustainability, adverse effects, and self-created difficulty. So in regards to the 2-story minimum, in terms of neighborhood character, the granting of this variance, we believe, will not create an undesirable change in the neighborhood. As mentioned, the building is functionally 2 stories. As you can see, basically where we don't meet the criteria of the city is if you're looking at this southern portion that Christian's highlighting right now. The building is 22 feet tall, so it is, you could define as 2-story, but we do not have a second floor in that facility in order to provide the stacking capabilities for the retail storage. We need that entire 2-story height. So in order to do that, that's the solution we came up with. Between the glazing, the landscaping, everything else, we feel like the building blends in to the area and looks like a 2-story building. It could be retrofitted at a later point, conceivably, but for all intents and purposes, we need the height in there for the use. For feasibility of alternatives, we did look at all the other alternatives, but for the purposes of this project, as previously stated, we do need that amount of storage space for the project to proceed, and it is functional to that use. For this variance, we don't believe this is substantial, only because we are meeting the concept of 2-story, although from the outside no one will see, but we are deficit 64% technically, which is why we're here for the variance. Adverse effects, we do not believe this will have any adverse effects in the neighborhood. The use of this building is going to greatly improve this area, in our opinion. It's going to provide more pedestrian access down West Onondaga Street and Seymour, more visibility, more things going on. We're going to be reactivating the streetscape, and then its extension to Gifford Street provides additional built area that's not there now to provide some security on that side, which we think are all positives for the area. Lastly, the project is the variance is self-created. This was the design moving forward, but it is important to note that we did get a lot of input from the city, SIDA, and the DRI, which is part of this project, all leading to the design that you see today. So that's the first variance in regards to the 2-story request.
I'm going to just give you 1 second. Anybody have any questions they want to ask right now about the first variance while it's fresh top? No? Okay. Sorry.
All right. Thank you.
Top
That's
of
a good idea. For the second variance, if we can go to the Gifford. Yep, perfect. So what you're looking at the top there is the Gifford Street facade. Again, it is a 2-story building, 22 feet in height. What you'll see is there's not necessarily a lot of glass on the first story. What that is, though, those darker areas, and then on top of those white areas, the white areas are the transparent glass, and the dark areas are opaque glass. So again, similar to the first variance, we are meeting the concept of the variance. We do have that 40% glazing. It's just not transparent, which is where the variance comes in. So running through quick, neighborhood character, we feel it does not create an undesirable change in the neighborhood character. As stated, it does provide the idea of transparency, that viewership onto the street. Those occupying that space will see glass, but from the inside, obviously, you'll not be looking out onto the street. That's mostly for security concerns. If anyone's familiar with the rescue mission, there are concerns by the city police department, things in the area, and this is ultimately to reduce glass breaking and unsightliness that would occur from keeping transparent glass at that level. So it's neighborhood character. Feasibility of alternatives, we looked at it, but as previously said, we don't feel those alternatives are helpful, because if glass was at that level, there's a concern for breaks and things like that. Substantiality, again, we don't feel it's substantial. Technically, it is substantial. We do not meet the 50% threshold, but again, we're meeting the idea of it, but providing the full 50% glass that is required, but most of that glass is opaque. Adverse effects, as previously said, we don't feel that this is going to have any impact on the environmental and community. Again, for previously stated security reasons and protection for the building. And lastly, again, this is self-created. This is the design we would like to move forward with because of the previously mentioned requirements. So if you have any questions now.
Now, opaque glass, now does that mean it's totally opaque, or is it like one-way glass? I can look out, but you can't look in.
I am a landscape architect, so I will defer to Dylan, our architect.
Thank you. I'm Dylan Smith, an architect with SWBR, 309 South Franklin Street here in Syracuse. So we did explore using spandrel glass as part of curtain wall assemblies earlier on, which would be opaque and are not visible from the inside. So the zoning is interested in not only just the openings, but the transparency. So the white voids that are shown on the elevations are the truly transparent glass. We're not, there's not more sight lines from the inside out versus outside in. The other thing to note is it's not a staffed building, and it's a large storage warehouse of a staff of maybe 4 to 5 people. So having glass at grade, which is kind of the intent of the zoning, to activate the public space, have some passive security, sightlines activity within, and sightline eyes out. There's not the case for eyes out in this because it's high pile storage, 12 feet tall.
Where does the, like, sort of first story, second story, is it like right in the middle of the,
So this is all full height, one space, open warehouse.
so if I'm a human being, I'm not going to be able to look in those windows unless I'm extremely tall?
Correct, yeah. And the intent, yeah, that's up,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Got it.
And again, the intent is to keep breakable glass from having more durable materials at the sidewalk and along this side. And we really, yeah, from the elevations, this is helpful. We really want to encourage, in the spirit of the DRI and this project, encourage pedestrian
Could you explain
activity.
what the DRA is for
Sure. That
some
so
folks?
there is a component of this for state program for downtown revitalization initiative, and that's where Vince mentioned working with the city and SIDA, as well as trying to use this project to draw pedestrian activity and future development from kind of the intersection of where the Salt City Market is down along Onondaga, and this is the corner of Onondaga and Seymour. And so architecturally, we're using the 2-story building, which is the retail with offices above, that will be the rescue mission offices, and highlighting these 3 kind of commercial opportunities to encourage development in the area and help with kind of in bringing some of that context and encourage people to come down and around. So that's where those public entrances that are 2 stories will be a future commercial tenant, and the anchor that's on the end, if you go back to the first elevation, is that 315 store, which, because that will be built out day one, we listened to some feedback from the city and we increased the amount of glass at that moment so that it has more of that transparency at grade activity to the sidewalk, the eyes out concept. And so that's really where we push the design in response to the city. And then in terms of a 360 design, that same kind of entrance motif is brought back to this side along Gifford, and we're using comparable materials and, like I said, durable materials, and limiting the amount of breakable transparent glass is the approach for this side, and really pushing people along Seymour Street as is aligned with kind of the greater goal of both the DRI at state and city and with the rest. Yeah, so the large green area along the other blank wall is fenced, secure, private space.
Have you had problems with broken glass for existing properties?
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, and it's not only, I mean, so we design things so that they can be easily repaired, but there's always a lag in getting someone there. So it's not just the fact that the cost of having to replace it, it's the downtime and seeing, things boarded up or broken glass, and so that definitely comes into a strategy of being more strategic. So along this side, like I said, we wanted to pull people to entrances, and that's why you're not seeing glass down to the sidewalk, even along Seymour. We raise the sill height, we slope the sill of the windows. We're trying to move people along the sidewalk, but give peeks in, and again, that zoning concept of the eyes out, I think, is really prominent on the Seymour facade.
Jacobs would be proud.
Oh, that's a deep cut for some people. Any other questions for our design professionals from the board at this time?
Now, this will not be a thrifty shopper. This is going to be something different. you're
It's the
calling?
315, which is still owned and operated by the Rescue Mission. It's a little more upscale boutique theme. So there's one on campus, Marshall Square Mall. And there's another in Camillus too. So they kind of, it's a little more curated for, the one on campus is geared towards the college students. This might be towards live work people downtown. We're trying to attract that, not just clothing, but some other things, lifestyle for your apartment.
So you're not going to come back in 6 months trying to get a variance for a thrifty shopper sign or something? No.
No, the signage, no.
Okay.
Anybody else? Nope. Okay. Thanks, guys. Is there anybody who would like to speak in favor of the proposal? Excellent. Anybody who wishes to speak against the applications? All right. Now we will close the public comment. And if the board has any discussion about the content of the application as it relates to the 5 balancing criteria, this would be your opportunity to discuss them. But we do need to discuss it a little bit.
Well, I think it would be an improvement in the neighborhood.
I think as far as neighborhood character, to me, this sticks with the neighborhood character, with the rescue mission's presence in their work, but also enhances it by, adding in a reason for a variety of folks to enter the neighborhood, and I think in general is a good thing.
Yeah, I would agree with that because it's the buildings there now are kind of ragged, to be polite, and this would be a new building would be a step in the right direction.
The only thing I would add is I think they more than covered the criteria. And I think looking at the design is a dynamic design for the community. I love it. So.
In terms of the feasibility of alternatives, I think that the application did its best to mitigate any, the need for the variance, if not in the numbers, but in the spirit of the design, which is very helpful. And again, speaking to the substantiality of those, on paper they may be substantial, but in practice they are, I think, minimal. Unfortunately, it is a self-created difficulty, but given that this is a balancing test and the overwhelming, I think, benefit to the neighborhood character and positive benefit to the neighborhood, as we have all experienced if you've had coffee at Salt City Market at 8 a.m., it's the opposite of an adverse effect. So it's a tremendous asset to the neighborhood, great design. Any other comments on the content of the applications for the variances? Oh, great. All right, I believe we are moving to seeker. Christian, your time to shine.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Well, buckle up because this will be a little bit of a dialogue here. So as stated before, the board can make a decision on both variants. Seeker must be done. Because the board is determined to be, can you get to the part 2, please? Thank you. Because the board is determined to, because this project is determined to be an unlisted action with a coordinated environmental review and a Part 1 full environmental assessment form was submitted, the board must go through Part 2 of the full environmental assessment form, which I will refer to as FEAF. The Part 2 FEAF is on page 63 of your packet. You would kindly turn to that and follow through. It has been pre-filled with suggestions from staff. Part 2 of the FEAF is an issue spotting exercise where the board will discuss if there are any potential impacts that they need to analyze in more details in Part 3 of the FEAF. I'm going to go through each question in the Part 2 FEAF and ask if you agree with staff's recommendations. Any questions so far? All right. Okay. So impact on land. The first question involves the impact to land. This is on page, again, 63. Because this is a project that involves the construction and physical alteration of land, we recommend that the board answer this question yes and go through sub-questions A through G. Does the board agree?
Yes.
Great. The sub-questions A through G are asking about the depth to water table, slope of the site, exposed bedrocks, excavation and removal of natural materials, potential erosion, duration of the construction, and if the action is in a coastal erosion hazard area. Based on the information provided on the FEAF Part 1, the response letter that the applicant submitted with their environmental record, the scope of work, the urban context the project is in, and the action not exceeding any numerical threshold in any of the subsections, I recommend you check no or small impact for all of the sub-questions through A through G. Does the board agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Question 2, impact on geological features. The second question involves the impact to geological features. We recommend that the board answer this question no, because there are no unique geological features within or near the project site. Does the board agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Impact on surface water. The third question involves the impact to surface water. Because the action involves construction to a nearby water body on Onondaga Creek, we recommend that the board answer yes and go through sub-questions A through K. Does the board agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Sub-questions A through K are asking about whether the action will create a new water body, will increase or decrease the surface area of any water body, whether dredging will be involved if the action involves construction within or adjoins a fresh water or tidal wetland, or a bed or bank of any water body, whether the action will cause turbidity in the water body, construction of an intake pipe for withdrawal of water from surface waters, construction of an outfall pipe for discharge of wastewater to surface waters, siltation to receiving water bodies, the use of pesticides or herbicides in any water body, or the expansion of existing wastewater treatment facilities. A lot there, but I recommend you check no or small impact to all the sub-questions A through K because no new water bodies will be created through the project's action. A New York State pollutant discharge elimination system permit known as SPIDS and a stormwater pollution prevention plan known as SWIP must be approved by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, or DEC, and is required before construction can commence. Per the New York State DEC confirmation letter that I've handed out to you earlier today, although the project site is located near Onondaga Creek, a protection of waters permit is not required based on the scope of work and site design, and the action will not exceed any numerical threshold in any of the sub-questions. So for those reasons, I recommend you check no or small impact. Does the board agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Any questions so far?
Doing great.
Thanks. Impact to groundwater. The fourth question involves impact on groundwater. We recommend that the board answer no to this question because the project will be connected to existing city water and sewer infrastructure. It is not located above any aquifers that are used for drinking water, and no pesticides or herbicides will be used in this project. Does the board agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Question 5. The fifth question involves impacts to flooding. Because this is a project that involves development near land that may be subject to flooding, we recommend that the board answers this question yes and go through sub-questions A through F. Does the board agree?
Yes.
Yes.
The sub-questions A through F are asking about the floodway, floodplain, change of existing patterns and dams. I recommend you check no or small impact to sub-questions A through F because this project will include a stormwater management system to address on-site stormwater runoff caused by the change of drainage patterns. It will not fall within the existing floodplain along Onondaga Creek. You could see in that image, it's pretty far setback, and on the site plan it shows that there's no disturbance to the existing floodplain. And although the project site is located near Onondaga Creek, again, a protection of waters permit is not required based on the scope of work and the design, the site design. Does the board agree?
Yes.
Yes.
The sixth question involves impact to air. We recommend that the board answer no to this question because this project will not require federal or state air emission permits and does not include air emission sources. Does the board agree?
Yes.
The seventh question involves impacts on plants and animals. Because this project is close to downtown, where the peregrine falcon's habitat is tall buildings and trees to nest and forage, we recommend that the board answer this question yes and go through each sub-question A through I. Does the board agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Sub-questions A through I ask about the negative impacts to populations of endangered species or special species, degradation of endangered species habitats, impacts to national natural landmark communities, and impact to forests more than 10 acres. We recommend that you check no or small impact for sub-questions A through I because the nearest peregrine falcon nesting site is about 2,580 feet away, approximately. There are no suitable nesting or roosting habitats for the falcon on site. Again, it's a flat site and there are barely any trees, if not, there's no trees on there. There are no natural areas around the site, like wooded areas. So for those reasons, does the board agree to check no or small impacts to these sub-questions?
Yes.
Yes.
The eighth question involves the impact to agricultural resources. We recommend that the board answer no to this question because there are no agricultural resources in the vicinity of this project area. Does the board agree?
Yes.
Impacts on aesthetic resources. The ninth question involves the impact on aesthetic resources. We recommend that the board answer no to this question because there are no aesthetic resources recognized on or close to the project site. Does the board agree?
Yes.
The 10th question involves the impacts to historic and archaeological resources. We recommend that the board answer yes to this question and goes through sub-questions A through E. Does the board agree?
Yes.
Although questions E3E, E3F, and E3G in the FEAF Part 1 list 3 eligible historic structures, they are not substantially contiguous to the project site for the following reasons. The Peace Manor project at 153 to 57 Seymour Street is the nearest National Register eligible site relative to the project location. However, it is not situated directly across Granger Street and is approximately 228 linear feet away from the project site. As a result, it is not considered substantially contiguous to the project site. It's also separated by Seymour Street. The next one is the bridge over Onondaga Creek on or near 103 Dickerson Street. It is the second closest National Register eligible property located at about 270 linear feet away from the project site. Additionally, another property lies between the bridge and the project site. Therefore, the bridge is not considered substantially contiguous to the project site. The last one is the Whedon Schumacher House at 366 West Onondaga Street. It is not substantially contiguous to the project site as it's about a quarter mile away from the site. So, although a portion of the project site falls within the archaeological buffer area identified on the New York State Cultural Resources Information System, known as CRIS, that mapper, the buffer follows the Onondaga Creek pathway. So the proposed action does not involve any construction near the creek, and a significant portion of the site within the buffer area will be preserved as green space, minimizing potential impacts on archaeological resources. Therefore, we recommend that the board answer no or small impact to sub-questions A through E. Does the board agree?
Yes.
The 11th question involves impacts on open space and recreation. We recommend,
Excuse me, Christian.
yes,
Now, on 10, you checked, you say no.
Yes.
But then on the other hand, you got the no
Right.
box is marked, so is that wrong?
thank you for bringing that up. Yes, we did make a mistake on page 68. Sub-question 10 should be checked yes, and then all of the no or small impacts should be checked no. So thank you for catching that.
Back
Any
to
other
11.
questions? Back to 11, all right. The 11th question involves the impacts to open space and recreation. We recommend that the board answer no to this question because there are no designated open spaces or recreational resources that will be affected by this property. Does the board agree?
Yes.
The 12th question involves the impacts to critical environmental areas. We recommend that the board answer no to this question because the project site does not contain nor is adjacent to a critical environmental area. Does the board agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Question 13 involves impacts to transportation. We recommend that the board answer no to this question because the project site will not result in changes to the existing transportation systems or network as it is. Does the board agree?
Yes.
The 14th question involves impacts on energy. We recommend that the board answer no to this question because the project's energy demand can be met by utilizing existing utilities and does not require new or an upgrade to an existing substation or extension of energy transmission systems. Does the board agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Question 15 involves the impacts to noise, odor, and light. We recommend that the board answers no to this question because the ambient noise level will not be affected by construction activities or activities after construction. There will be no blasting. There will be no routine noxious odors from the land use itself, and no lighting will spill over onto other properties. Does the board agree?
Yes.
Almost there. 16th question involves impact to human health. The project will not involve construction or modification of a solid waste management facility, and the solid waste generated during construction and operation will be removed and disposed of in compliance with all state, federal, and local laws and regulations. So Part 1 of the FEAF subsection E1H3 states that the project is within 2,000 feet of one dumping site, DEC ID number 734042, where I think it was like sometime in the 80s, Royal Research Lab buried chemical drums near a site on Shawnered Street. And there is the project site is within one brownfield cleanup site, DEC ID number C734162. This BCP cleanup site is the East Adams Redevelopment Brownfield Cleanup Program at 100 Angelo Terrace. So both of these the subject site is far enough away from both of the sites so as to not disturb any contaminated soils. Thus, I recommend that the board answer no to this question.
Okay, yes.
Does the
no.
board
Yes.
agree? Any questions on that? All right. 17th question involves consistency with community plans. We recommend that the board answer no to this question because the action is consistent with community plans. The proposed land use is not in sharp contrast to surrounding land use patterns. Does the board agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Last one. The 18th question involves consistency with community character. The project will infill a vacant lot and be compatible with the local community character. The project will not create a demand for additional community service and will not interfere with the use or enjoyment of officially recognized or designated public resources. Therefore, I recommend that the board answer no to this question. Does the board agree?
Yes.
The Board of Zoning Appeals, as lead agency in this coordinated review under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, has thoroughly reviewed all relevant materials, has taken a hard look, and analyzed all aspects of this action. For all the reasons set forth above, the commission determines that the action will not have any significant adverse impacts on the environment, and therefore an environmental impact statement need not be prepared. Accordingly, the Board of Zoning Appeals issues a negative declaration to be filed, and notice of the negative declaration will be provided pursuant to all applicable laws and regulations.
Can I get a motion concurring with Christian's summary?
Motion.
A second? Great. All those in favor of the
Aye.
seeker negative declaration? Sorry. Great. Motion passes. All right, we have two variance resolutions. Should we do them separately or combine them? Separately. Okay. Just want to make sure. All right. May I have a motion on V2504, an area variance to waive the two-story minimum requirement?
I'll make a motion to waive the two-story minimum requirement in the mixed-use transition zone district for the proposed rescue mission exchange building.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Could you take us through the balancing test, please?
Yes. I think as far as neighborhood character goes, this sticks with the neighborhood character, but also enhances it due to the variety of new uses that are being brought in, as well as sticking with the work of the rescue mission, which makes up a good chunk of the character of the neighborhood currently. I think for both substantiality and feasibility of alternatives, the spirit of the design has done a lot of work to limit the substantiality of the difference here. And I think a lot of work has gone into that in order to do its best to stick with the spirit of the code. Adverse effect, I think, again, this is going to just enhance the neighborhood. There's a lot of good things going on here. And again, with the self-created difficulty, I think it's clear from staff analysis and from the application that there's been a lot of work to limit this and to comply as best as possible through the spirit of the design.
Michael, anything to add?
I concur. Being pretty much a nonprofit organization, they don't want to overspend. So I think this is in agreement with their with their mission to make a building like this.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving V2504, the general conditions of the area variance and the continued collaboration with relevant agencies and the contingency that this will be approved by the re-subdivision at the City Planning Commission. All those things. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. Motion carries. May I get a motion on V2505, the area variance to waive the ground floor transparency requirements? Somebody's got to do it.
I'll make the motion to, oh, sorry, Karen.
All right, motion, Karen seconds. Thanks, Liam.
Yep, I'll motion to waive the ground floor transparency requirements for the proposed rescue mission exchange building.
Karen seconds. Liam, you get to do it again.
I think similarly, I think as far as substantiality and self-created difficulty and the feasibility of alternatives, I think there's a lot of work was put into the design here to stick with the spirit of what's required, even where it might fall a little bit short. I think additionally, the fact that there's been some issues with broken glass in the neighborhood and just sort of the nature of the work that's going on, I think there's some unique circumstances here. And again, I think with the neighborhood character, it just enhances it. And the design did a lot of work to continue to fit in there too.
Karen, anything to add?
I agree.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right. There being no other business, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll do it.
Yes.
All right.
Second.
Liam, Karen, Liam, done. We are adjourned.